This is Minda. She is a 21-year-old student at Southwest Baptist University. When Minda was born, she was missing both her arms and her legs. But this has not stopped her from overcoming almost all the obstacles she faces as a physically disabled student.
In 1975, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, or EHA, was enacted. Before this time, schools denied children with disabilities their right to learn. In fact, there were many statewide policies that excluded blind, deaf, and mentally handicapped children from receiving a free public education.
When EHA was passed, it promised free, appropriate public education to the children who had been deprived of the rights set forth by the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
In 1990, the Act was amended and the name was changed to Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is well known in our schools today as IDEA.
According to IDEA, a child with a disability is classified as having a mental retardation, a hearing impairment, including deafness, a speech or language impairment, a visual impairment, including blindness, a serious emotional disturbance, an orthopedic impairment, autism, traumatic brain injury, learning disabilities, deaf blindness, or multiple disabilities, and who, by reason thereof, need special education and related services.
Students who qualify for special education under IDEA will then have an Individualized Education Program, or IEP, written for them.
Because of these IEPs, students with disabilities can enjoy the same classroom atmosphere as their peers.
Now that we know what IDEA is, let's talk about how we can accommodate for a specific diversity in the classroom.
Provisions for handicapped students, faculty, and guests are a common occurrence here at SBU. But how can we as teachers provide for a physically disabled student in our own classroom?
As future elementary, middle, and high school educators, we have a responsibility to not only accommodate for students with disabilities in our classroom, but give each student an equal opportunity for academic success.
I sat down with Minda and asked her about her experiences as a student.
So, did you attend a public high school?
No, I only attended public school during my 4th and 5th grade.
Then what was it like the 2 years that you were in a public school?
They were somewhat difficult because, well, for one thing, people didn't really understand my disability, and they were either afraid to let me try things, too afraid to let me try things, or they just didn't want to have to bother with trying to figure out ways in which I could easily participate. So a lot of the teachers just didn't understand my needs, and they thought that because I could do a lot for myself, I didn't really have a disability. But no, I was like, no, I can't keep up with the writing and the time managing and all of that. I need to, I need like an aide to take down notes or something. They didn't really understand that I needed help, or they'd give me too much help. Like they were wanting the aid once they got the aid. They would want the aid with me at all times. But she didn't need to be with me all the time. She just needed to help me get out my paper, my pencils, and all that for, when I was before an assignment. But they had her pushing me in recess and all that stuff, which I didn't need.
When you were at the public school, did the actual campus have everything that you needed, or was that another reason that you ended up homeschooling?
Well, since I went to 2 different schools during those 2 years, the first school was accessible, but it took them a while to realize that because I'm in a wheelchair, if there was a fire, we were set in the 2nd floor, but if there's a fire, you can't use the elevator to get down once there's a baby. So it took them a while to realize that and understand that, and move my classroom down to the 1st floor where everything was accessible.
If you were to attend a public high school today, what would be your advice for the teachers and the faculty and the staff?
Them sitting down and really talk with a disabled student about his or her needs, because the disabled student knows better than they do what accommodations need to be made. Having the teacher and the staff sit down and say, look, what kind of things do you need help with? What do you need? What kind of personal care, can we have an aide do? And what kind of things can the students and even the teacher can do?
After spending time with and questioning Minda, I learned what I believe to be are the two most important lessons of working with a student with a disability. The first is treat each student on an individual level. Just because two students have the same disability doesn't mean that they are the same. Get to know your students, learn their needs, and find ways to accommodate them in your classroom. And the second one is, don't label your student as their disability. As Minda so eloquently put it,
I'm just an SBU student who happens to be disabled.